this area affected by the Civil War?
Look at me or him.
Actually, I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, there are several things. The Civil War brought about trains, and the purpose of it kind of showed the country that trains were easier to build and navigate and travel. So the Route 40, which was the old national road, went from Cumberland to Vandalia. Route 40 dropped off after the Civil War. Traffic along Route 40, so you know places like the Archer House and the Carey House. That all went away after the Civil War because of the trains. The train route didn't go through here. They actually took it north to north toward Chicago because the central. They took the Central Passage. There had been three different tracks surveyed before the Civil War, but as of the Civil War, they decided on the central one, and they went through there. So that's one thing. So the old Cumberland Road declined. Traffic declined. That's one of the big ones. I gave you that thing there, which is the Adjutant General's report on 123rd Illinois, which showed the north. That's the unit that came from this area. And it talks about people, I know I've used it in my classes, and they found relatives.
Really?
Yeah. If you look through there and it's a family that's been around here for a significant period of time, you will recognize names that you're familiar with, like Mumford. At Mumford, there was like 4 different Mumfords from Casey in there, places like that, so you can look through there, and I'll just give you that.
All right, thank you.
Didn't they just had an article in one of the papers where, because of this, the National Road was never really finished?
Yeah,
well.
they stopped at Vandalia because at that point they said, why bother going in? That was in National Geographic this month.
Okay.
So the National Road, they just stopped it because they were going to use trains to take 401 west.
And they didn't even pave this part or take care of this part of all they had.
Yeah, up to this point. Yeah, the National Road came through here in the late 1830s. But by 1836, already they kind of decided that trains were the thing. They were having some technical problems. One of them was steel. They couldn't get enough steel. But right after the Civil War, the Bessemer process was conscripted, I don't know how you put that, by Andrew Carnegie, and he took over and began producing steel in mass quantity, so they could make the tracks. So that's one of them. Like I said, people from here went. They had a problem in this particular area, and that's evident by the book, and it describes it pretty well. Across 5 Aprils, where she talks about so many copperheads in this area, people who supported the South were from the North, and talk about raiders coming in and raiding farms or places that were obviously from northern people. So you have a lot of guerrilla activity in here too. Another problem that they had in this particular area was they didn't, as of 1863, they didn't necessarily go along with the idea of changing the purpose of the war to anti-slavery. And so they had a lot of deserters who came back home. They called them mossbacks. They said the thing was that they said that they'd lie in the woods until moss grew on their back before they'd support the abolition of slavery as the purpose of the war. And so a lot of people deserted and came home at that point.
But Lincoln wouldn't issue the Emancipation Proclamation until on a battle.
Yeah, and that was the battle with Antietam.
And it did. People weren't for that.
Yeah, the original purpose of the war was to just keep the Union together. It was not to disband slavery. Lincoln wasn't. He didn't run on that or anything else. He was for limiting slavery to the South and not allowing it to expand, but then he got far enough into the war and he said, what the heck, and kind of changed the nature of the war at that point. And a lot of people objected to that, and like I said, well, he had a lot of desertions. The 123rd Illinois fought in a lot of the major campaigns. They fought at Lookout Mountain, they fought at Chickamauga, and they were with Sherman in his march to the sea. So there's a man who wrote, as a matter of fact, we were just looking at second in command, whose name is Connolly, which is a primary name over, two names I recognize. Biggs from Westfield was their commander. There's still 2 or 3 families of Biggs up in Westfield. Connolly is a name from Casey, although I think that one was from Charleston. Connolly wrote a book about the 123rd Illinois, which was published, and you can get a hold of the book, but you have to go through the Eastern Library to do it. How else did it? Well, those are the biggest things that changed that I can think of.
Well, I worked with a gentleman one time who that's how his relation came here, because they're given land in Illinois for being in the war. So that it probably brought people in the area.
The original settlement in this area was called an English settlement, which was, I couldn't pin it down. The closest they said was in Illinois along the National Road and next to the Wabash. And so that was the English settlement in Illinois. And I don't know how many there were, but that was a significant settlement. The big business in this particular county, the first big business in this particular county, is the stone quarry, which is for the idol. Tarbell stone quarry, where they were using the limestone. And that one's still out by, what is that, South Fox Ranch, the other one? Gulf Lakes. That's the original stone quarry out there. And that was the big business in here, the first big business, and that was in the 1830s. So as the population kind of shifted north, the businesses in this part just kind of dropped off because they didn't need them. They went to other places in Illinois. By 1836 or 1838, they shifted the capital from Vandalia to Springfield, and that is due because of the railroads beginning, even then beginning. But the Civil War actually showed them that the railroad was going to work, and after that they never really did come back to this national road.
Or the canal system.
Yeah, the canal system was started and never even completely finished. At one time there was a canal between Terre Haute and the Great Lakes, which is still seen if you go through Terre Haute and you look around down Ohio Street. At the end of Ohio Street there's a canal street, and that is where the canal actually went from the Wabash River to the Great Lakes, which I think was Lake Erie.
Yeah, Wabash Erie Canal. I know they say that around the Elks Club you can see part of it.
Yeah, you can still see it just looks like a ditch now. Yeah, but that originally was a canal. In the 1840s they were in the canal phase. That again was before the railroad. They thought they'd do better with canals, but that didn't work out either. And so they had just abandoned that thing. By the time the Civil War goes on, Terre Haute was the end stop for river traffic too. They came up the Ohio and then up the Wabash and got as far as Terre Haute, and that's as far as they could go with a paddle wheel. And every once in a while you still hear them talking about, making the Terre Haute navigable, or the Wabash navigable up to Terre Haute again, but that'll never happen. It takes too much money, and why bother? But by the Civil War, that was still possible. So river traffic could go to Terre Haute, which were on the other side of the river.
That's pretty good.
You take kids take your coats off, you want.
Okay, I'm done. It's your turn, man.
Well, I don't know all that stuff. I keep thinking. But I did read, where they didn't really finish the road on west of here really like they had on east because of that. They didn't need it. Didn't think it was necessary.
A lot of it was a corduroy road east here. After that, it was just kind of a mud track with crossings over the streams, and that's necessary. If you think about it, trying to get a wagon down enough those streams is pretty bad unless you have a crossing. Mill Creek, for example. Mill Creek is called Mill Creek because there were 4 flour mills. As a matter of fact, I could take you down there and show you where the runs are on one of them right now. I remember where we used to live, right there on this side of Clark Center. And the cement for the runs where, you know, they were using water power to run the mills is still there. And that stuff's got to be at least 100 years old. But that's why they called it Mill Creek 4 flour mills right there on one small creek. They just dammed it up and used the water to run the flour, run their mills to mill the flour.
How did the people react to the Emancipation Proclamation around there?
Not well. Not around here. That's what I'm saying. You know, I was talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
That we had a lot of people around here went with the South. Now you don't get records from the South, but
You couldn't like record. You're erasing everything.
keep any after the war. They got rid of all that stuff because they didn't want to be have it traced back to them. You might, if you go down south, you might be able to find some of the stuff in the courthouse, but people who went from here and joined the South, you're not going to find anything unless it's a family record that they just happen to keep.
If they didn't swear allegiance back to Union, they couldn't vote anymore either.
Yeah. So after the war, they just came home and acted like nothing happened.
Mm.
But a lot of people from here, it was just about an even toss-up about whether they went north or south.
And you'll see that sometimes in history in the Terre Haute papers. They had a lot of copperhead columns in southern Indiana. As a matter of fact, the Confederates did come into southern Indiana.
Most of southern Illinois pretty much went with the, well, it didn't go with the South, but like I said, it was a toss-up about which side was which. Illinois sent a lot of soldiers to the South.
So, who was more popular, Lee or Grant?
In this area, probably Grant, because he was kind of a local homeboy. And Grant was one of the, later on was one of the commanders, 123rd Illinois was a regiment. Grant was one of the commanders, ultimate commanders of this particular regiment. So a lot of the men got to see him.
Yeah, and like
Grant and Sherman, well, Sherman was too. General Sherman was them. But I would say Grant was popular. Grant was from Illinois. He was originally from Ohio, but then he made his home in Illinois. He was from up north, what's the name? Galena, Illinois, which is up in the northwest corner. Galena was a mining town. A lot of people don't understand that. It was a mining town and was quite prosperous during the Civil War since it was a lead mine. They got a lot of their lead for the bullets.
Well, Grant recruited through here.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a plaque there at Mattoon's Fleet at the train station. And he wasn't a commissioned officer yet. And this book has some about that too, about him. That's an old book, but so yeah, sure he was more popular.
Yeah, and Lee.
Well, Virginians had an air about them where they thought Virginia was the greatest thing going, and that's why Lee went with Virginia. He wouldn't fight against Virginia. See, Lee could have been in charge of the Union Army, but he elected not to fight against Virginia. And I think there may have been, for a long time, a little resentment towards the Virginians because of their attitude. You know.
Did farming become more important when the Civil War came around?
Yeah, like Ed said, they gave away a lot of land. The Homestead Act actually brought this, not necessarily in this area though, but actually brought a lot of settlers into Illinois. This area was pretty much all divided and parceled up and sold by the state. The way they did it was they would get an area surveyed off and make it into a county. And after the Civil War, farming becomes more lucrative because the industrialization process, which is happening actually in the East, these people are not farming for themselves, and we see the big changeover occurs right after the Civil War. And so before the Civil War, a lot of people were just pretty much farming for themselves. They would raise whatever they wanted to. After that, you see the farms get bigger, more commercial farming, and Illinois land was going like this. Like I said, the second big after the English, which that whole thing was over in the late 1830s, you see the large influx of Germans into Illinois, but it was mostly up in the prairies, like Champaign, places like that. But the Germans actually settled. But that Homestead Act was passed in 1862, and you get a lot of new people coming into Illinois, picking up whatever land is left over. We always think the Homestead Act was just taking place and occurring out west, but Illinois experienced, and a lot of Illinois, there's something like 183,000 acres, square miles, I can't remember, I have to look it up, of Illinois land went to the Homestead Act right away.
Well, one thing too was we couldn't plow this grass and let us keep a plow.
Yeah.
We wouldn't plow. This grass was so thick and matted that the plow wouldn't turn over. It could cut it. And that's why some of it, the early settlers didn't settle there, although it was fertile ground, they couldn't take move it. Especially south of Palestine.
Yeah, you get to the clay like we have around here, and it causes a lot of difficulty. Now up on the prairie, like places like Champaign, once they got the roots cut, they were okay, but down here the clay still caused some problems until John Deere came along with what's called a self-scouring plow, which means that the dirt actually kind of rolls off of it. It doesn't stick. And that has to be good quality steel. But again, until you get the Bessemer process, which Carnegie got a hold of in 1870, you can do that. So they had a difficulty here for a little while in just farming because of the clay soil.
Did it become more industrialized, things that they didn't have the right machines for the farm?
No, industrialization is never hit this county.
Yeah, like around here.
No, farming was the big business here. Like I said, the only other, the first big business was the quarry, but that's about it. That and like I said, and farming. Farming was becoming more lucrative because of the industrialization. People were able to sell their crops for more because a lot of people weren't working at farming anymore, they were working in factories. The trains started coming through after the Civil War, and we get a kind of an interconnected system around Illinois by 1870, which is within 5 years of the Civil War.
How popular was Lincoln around here?
I would say he's pretty popular. They're constantly looking and checking. They found just a few years ago, they found some of his papers at the courthouse here. And it is one of his stops on his circuit. I mean, he rode the circuit, and the Marshall Courthouse was one of them. One of his speeches with, help me out here, with Douglas occurred in Charleston. That's before the war, and when he was running for senator, I guess.
Big Clinton stayed in the Archer House. That's what you hear. And a few years ago they ran a thing where he defended somebody here, and it was all written up.
Yeah.
The way he did Paris too, didn't he go there?
Yeah, he went here to Paris, and pretty much this corner, this edge from here over to Springfield, just like a swath through here from Springfield. And, I don't know, there were like 16 sites that he had to visit. And it wasn't just the judges that rode the circuits, the lawyers had to ride the circuits too, because they followed around the judges, and whenever there was a trial, they were available to defend somebody. So I would say he was pretty popular. Lincoln was pretty popular wherever he went. He made friends. He was a figure that a lot of people would probably have recognized and had talked about. And he got along with pretty much everybody. Probably a pretty nice guy.
How did the people react to his assassination?
No, I couldn't tell you. I didn't hear anything about that.
Both before our time.
I don't know.
I think they were, probably pretty shook. Because any time a president gets killed, I suppose.
Yeah, not only that, but Lincoln was the first president assassinated.
Yeah.
There had never been an assassination before that. But you get two things coming along at the same time. Lincoln was only assassinated a week after the end of the war. So the war ends, Lincoln's assassinated that same week. So you've got the good and the bad together. I don't know.
was what his mother and your stepmother and father are buried in South Charleston. You've probably been.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean a lot. Lincoln hated his father.
Yeah.
And wouldn't visit his father. He wouldn't even go to his father's grave. He didn't attend the funeral at all. He didn't like his father.
I'm not sure which one is. I don't know if you've ever been there. But there's his stepmother and his father's grave in a little iron fence. And there's his father's grave over here. So I don't know which one he's in. I don't know if did you ever go there?
Yeah, I've been up there, but I don't remember the grave.
Yeah, we were.
The reason why Lincoln didn't like his father, or actually almost hated his father, was because back then, if your father wanted to, you owed him. And what you owed to him was your labor until you were 21. And if your father wanted to keep it, that's another thing. Your girls had to marry who your father told you to, too. And so his father held him to that. Wouldn't let him off the place and held him, which was his legal responsibility. You know, he had the legal right to do it, but it's kind of like working. Maybe that has something to do with slavery, too, because he couldn't leave. He had to work for his father until the age of 21 when he could get up and leave. And he left, and he didn't come back. Nor did he have anything to do with his father after that.
That's about all the questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not me, I'm talking.
When you did a good job.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Like you say, this book.
You can take that paper with you, and that's yours.